Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday on my channel. We've got a booktube discussion for you today. And in a minute, I'm going to welcome fellow authortuber Valerie Geary to the stage, which you'll see. But for the moment, I'm going to give you my upcoming attractions. This is the new format I'm trying. So Tuesday, this week at 6 p.m. Pacific, we have a wrap party for all the people who read for the Black Authortuber Readathon, which should be awesome. So check in the description for links to that. And then Friday, I don't have a link for this yet, but I'm going to be doing another buddy read for this book, The Tainted by Valerie Madhavan, which is supposed to be excellent. And I'm reading for the Irish Readathon. So very excited to start that today after today's discussion. And for that discussion, let me welcome on Valerie Geary. Hello, hello.
Hi.
So we're here today to talk about this lovely book, The Bookish Life of Nina Hill by Abbi Waxman. It's got a really cute cover. And before we dive into the book, let's give Valerie a little time to say a piece about her channel and her books. Please, please.
Well, let's see. I have been writing mystery and suspense books for over a decade. I started out in traditional publishing and recently have switched over to self-publishing and kind of exploring that avenue. And last year I started a YouTube channel on a whim. I was making like a reading journal, and I had been watching a lot of YouTube videos about people making journals, and I just found them really calming. So I made my own. I no longer use that reading journal, but then I just kept making bookish videos. So mostly right now I'm talking about books. I'm not doing a lot of authortube stuff. I did do a brief series last year when I launched my first self-published book about doing a soft launch and a low-key launch. But mostly I've just been focusing on my reading life and talking to people about what I've been reading and that kind of thing. So
excellent. Sweet. So welcome to my channel. Happy to have you here. I love seeing another authortuber who's doing booktube stuff because it's pretty obvious to me that we want to connect with other readers because they're going to read our books too. So yeah. It's fun. I'm just going to welcome the people in the chat as well. Excuse me, I'm running low on tea today. Shannon was here and said hello. She hasn't read the book, but wants to listen in. Anita is here. Hello, Anita. John is here from Howdyland. Hello, hello. And Cool Gamer stopping by. Thanks, guys. Nice to see your lovely faces in this virtual world we're living in. So what do we have to start off with? First question that I usually ask people is, why did you pick up the book? And I think you had a special theme for February, so let us in on that.
Well, I think originally when I found this book, I was on vacation at the beach, and I went in, what's that? Have you ever been? It's Cloud and Leaf bookstore in Manzanita.
Yes, I have. Yep.
I went in there, and I had obviously brought 7 books with me on this trip, but I was like, I need a new one. And I think I was drawn to the cover, and obviously I'm a bookish person.
Right.
This looked like the perfect book.
Yeah.
And then it's
a good beachy look too, because it's got those I guess secondary colors. Yellow is primary, orange and aqua are kind of secondary and bright. Yeah, it's good beach.
Yeah, it looked like a fun light read. I did not read it on that trip, obviously. It just came and sat on my shelf over here. And then this, for 2022, I decided to start kind of reading off my own shelves a little bit, but I wanted to give myself a theme each month. And so February's theme was reading books that had girl in the title or some variation of that, or a woman's name. And I think I had used this as an example, and then Margaret was like, "Oh, I have that book," and I was like, "Oh, we should read it together." So that's how that came about.
So this came about, as most buddy reads do, is people just spying out each other's lists and going, "Ooh, I have that on my bookshelf."
Yeah,
and especially because I'm trying to read books on my shelf. Hashtag owned TBR for those in the know. Stop buying so many and start appreciating the books that you have on your shelf. They need book love too. So yeah, so I was jumping on this train, and this is, I think, one of only 2 that wasn't part of the readathon reads. So special. You got in. Okay, what about first impressions then, or general ups, downs, star rating, however you rate books?
Well, I generally only keep my star ratings to myself, because I think star ratings are pretty useless when telling a person about a book, because it's like, well, I maybe thought it was like 3 stars, but that to me means like it was good, I would recommend it, whereas to someone else that'd be like, oh, that's a bad book.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember the star rating that I gave for it, but my general impressions were that it was a very fun, kind of feel good, heartwarming, bookish book. Like, if you love books, you're probably going to love this book.
Yes. A book about books for book nerd girls.
Yeah.
That's how I'm like that's how I'm tagging this. And we all love books about books here, right? I think that's kind of a niche thing. So if you're joining late, hello, Beth Ann. Nice to see you. I've popped up Valerie's, and I put the apostrophe in the wrong place, drat, bookshop. So as you all know, I love to support indie authors. She's got a direct bookshop. So that's what I put in the descriptions, because you can buy the book directly from her website. And that's always the best way for the author. Let's pop that in there.
I am of multiple minds, so Valerie's bookshop works just fine.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you working that in. And since I learned from my talk with Shannon about the spoiler results, we're going to try to go over the general talk at the beginning and then save spoilers for later. So,
wait, Margaret, I'm going to interrupt you. I want to know how you came to find this book. Like, how did this book arrive in your life?
Oh, right. So I already skipped up. Thank you. So I'm trying to remember if this was a coast purchase or a Chicago trip purchase. I'm pretty sure it was a Chicago trip purchase, and I was egged on by Mary Weber O'Malley, who is like, what does she call herself? The virtual bookseller at large. Free range. The virtual free range bookseller at large, something like that, for Skylark Books. And so she was with me, and we went into a store, and I think that's where I saw this and had to take it home with me, because I needed like a little heartsies, I needed a little break from all the heavy stuff and like the ambitious projects. So that's exactly what this did. And that's my general impression, is that, so the blurb on the front says, Abbi Waxman is both irreverent and thoughtful. And I thought that pretty much nails it. I liked a lot of the irreverent stuff. It made me giggle while I was reading, but also super thoughtful in terms of her characters and her plot and her conflict that you engage with. So loved it. Let's see. Catching up on comments. Yes, free range bookseller. She's also, Mary is also a big chickens person. She lives at a place outside the city where she can have chickens. And so she's big on the chickens merch. I'll just put that out there. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to point out that we were just talking about ratings for a hot second, and I actually just did a tag that is called the ratings and reviews tag. And I'm sure most people here saw that, but I had a really interesting discussion in the comments with people about authors doing reviews and how we act in those spaces. So I just wanted to clarify for people in case they're wondering about authors talking about books on BookTube, which is a kind of a like, well, what's your motivation kind of thing. My purpose of putting book discussions up here is, one, because it's a great way to talk with other people and enhance your own reading of a book by getting other people's thoughts on it. It's sort of higher gratification, if you will, but also it's mainly to give people ideas about whether they will appreciate the book or not, and not be a negative Nancy about it. So no rants and no like ad hominem attacks. And even if I don't like the book, I'm going to like find ways to constructively critique it. So
I don't know. I kind of disagree.
Oh, okay.
I think that even with a negative review, I mean, not like, I never really like attacking the author as a person. That is obviously like off limits, because obviously this person worked really hard on the book. But as for like the narrative construction of the book and the way they're using the characters and maybe the thoughtfulness of the prose, I think it's okay to kind of at times take a more negative bent. And I do think that like readers are smart enough where they can figure out, oh, well, okay, subjectively, this person didn't like it, but I would like this.
Right.
So I do think like it is walking a fine line. Like, obviously we are writers and we know how much work goes into writing a book, but we're also readers and understand like the subjectiveness of it, and that there can be value in a negative review. Again, not like attacking, but
right. I just steer clear of the ranty stuff. Like, even when people here will tell you, I had a very frustrating experience with Red Mars, and I had a discussion with Chrissy about it, and that was live, and we talked, and there were a lot of things we didn't like about it, but we were explaining why we didn't like it, so that exactly people could find it and be like, oh, well, I like that thing, or actually, I like when they go that slow and talk about this and whatever, and I'm like, cheers, go with God, right?
And as an author, I would rather have people talk negatively about my book than not talk at all. So
hot take central. Here we go. Valerie Geary. Excellent. Okay. Okay. So what about favorite parts, since we're talking about being negative and positive? Let's start with the positive. Favorite parts of Nina Hill.
Yeah. I mean, obviously my favorite part was how obsessed she was with reading and with books. So she works, Nina is her name. I should preface this by saying that I am terrible with remembering characters' names in the books. So
okay.
Nina works at a bookstore, and that is like basically defines her whole life. Books define her life. And I think that was one of my favorite parts, because I just really connected with her on that level. And she is also a person who has anxiety, and I have anxiety. And so it just felt really relatable to me, like all the little bookish quirks that she has and the way she sets up her life, because she's very routine oriented and structured in her time. And there were just a lot of things that I really found relatable with her. So I think Nina and that aspect of her personality was my favorite part of the book.
Nice. I also, in the first few chapters, was like, okay, who is filming my life? What, where did they have the cameras? Because obviously these thoughts have gone through my head. Like, okay. Yeah, I really like that as well. And I liked how she gave little bites of backstory throughout that were like, this is how she fell into this. This is how her childhood was. I'll mention something I thought was a little weird to leave so late in the game later. But I think my favorite part about this was like the little zingers that we get in Nina's head, because I turned down lots of those. So for those who know my rating system, there's all those like turned down corners at the bottom, and there's one on the bottom, which is like the negative ones.
Oh, that's clever. I never thought of that. I started out using tabs. I don't know if you can see them, but then I lost my tabs. And so then I started folding up. It's just chaos over here. Chaos.
Yeah. When in need, a book lover does what she must. I forgot to put this in a banner, so I'll put it up now. If anyone has any questions about this book, feel free to pop it in the chat.
One other thing was that I really liked about it was that I laughed out loud a lot, which does not happen very often, but there were times where I just was like reading and I'd be like, huh?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find one of these. I thought I might get to do some quotes from this. Let's see. So it's set in Los Angeles, in case anyone has been to Los Angeles or lived there. And this is one of the exchanges that made me laugh out loud or like grin inwardly on page 83. I don't know her very well. They live on the other side of town. Santa Monica? Worse. Malibu. Might as well be Mars. They both nodded. Los Angeles is a big city, as everyone knows, but there is an even bigger divide between the west side and the east side. To get from east to west, you have to cross under the 405 freeway. There's a stretch of Olympic Boulevard where you can see the 405 just ahead, a parking lot in bridge form, where it can take you over an hour to go 1 or 2 blocks because a portion of the traffic is going up the ramp to get on the freeway and blocking the way for everyone else. People have gone insane on that stretch. And I was like, I know of what you speak.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So that's the type of zinger that I really appreciated. Like just the paragraphs of inner monologue explaining, like she's sort of showing us her life like a talk show, that I just thought was really a neat tone and very unique. So definitely. Favorite. What about least favorite, or like things that you thought were like, oh, this could have been given more emphasis or whatever?
I thought there was it almost felt like 2 separate stories to me. And I don't know, I will try not to get into too many spoilers here. I'll try to keep it a little bit vague at this point in the chat. Yeah. But so Nina at the beginning she has always been like an only child. She's never known her father. And at the beginning, she is given some information where her family expands. And then you also have like a romantic subplot with this guy, Tom, who's on a different trivia team than her. And there's kind of this back and forth, this banter, will they, won't they? And it almost felt like 2 separate stories were happening and not enough time and care was given to either one. So, and they didn't really mesh well together either. So we were just kind of being swung back and forth between these two different narrative storylines. And I would have, loved to maybe have one and not the other. I think for me, the family aspect was more interesting than the romance, because the romance kind of felt a little flat. Tom, I think, was the romantic lead, and he felt a little flat to me. And so I think that was the thing that by the end, I was just kind of like, oh, I wish I had gotten more of one thing rather than the other, rather than like switching back and forth between the two plot lines.
Okay, pretty fair. I kind of felt like Liz needed a little bit more grounding. So Liz is the bookstore owner who is part of the engine of like one driving part of the plot. And she doesn't like to pay the rent. And so she just avoids people, but she also avoids like everyone she doesn't like and leaves them to Nina or the other girl working at the bookstore. And it's like, okay, that's not, that didn't feel very realistic or like holistic. And she was just like throwing out these one-liners that felt very zany to me, which was comedic relief, but like could have been, I think, more of a rounded character in terms of someone who was in Nina's life all the time. And I was shocked by the simplicity of like the shock at the end. So I won't spoil it until after we put that spoiler alert banner up. But I didn't see it. I thought it was going to be something bigger, and so it just felt very like measured. I liked the romantic storyline better. Spoiler. I mean, not spoiler, but like no duh. It definitely felt more rooted and more relatable with the other storyline of like the bookstore and the I guess family interaction and like sort of negotiating personal interactions and like that thug introvert life, shall we say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like there were some inconsistencies with her character when she was dealing with her family versus with Tom. And I think like with Tom, I'm trying to think if this is a spoiler or not, but no, I don't think it is.
Okay.
I think with Tom, like we'll wait
okay.
on that.
Okay. All right. So let me get to some of the, I had one more general question, which is what are the adjectives you'd use to describe the book? And I think you did a little bit at the beginning with general impressions, but like madcap was the one that I thought of because of those zingers that got thrown out. Is there any other aspect of the book that you feel would round it up for people?
I mean, like playful, I want to say light, but not in like a derogatory way. Just like there weren't a lot of dark themes here. So not a lot of heavy. There were some deeper themes, but nothing that you would have to like take a break from. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I've been reading a lot of dark themed books lately.
Well, and I mean, you write thrillers, so
I know. I picked up another what was marketed as a romantic comedy, and it was not. I think you might have read it, Recipe for Persuasion.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot. There's intense. Yeah.
It's a lot about PTSD and trauma and like recovering from that. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is not a comedy at all. So this is comedic, light, fluffy, feel good.
Yeah.
If you have been reading like escapism, I think is a good way for this one.
Yeah.
A good verb for this one.
Especially because it ends on such a happy note. It's definitely a romance, like in that term of it. So you won't be disappointed. Okay, so I'm going to read through some of the discussion questions I got off the internet. Tell me if you're interested in answering them. Nina works in an indie bookstore, seems to enjoy the physical paper version of books. Do you prefer to read physical books or ebooks? Is that affected by whether or not you read them on paper? And in the street battle over books that happens towards the end of the novel, which is not a big spoiler, which side would you be on?
Okay, wait. This question.
What
was the second part? It was like it doesn't matter. Does it change if you read it on paper?
Yeah, I don't understand that middle question. Is your enjoyment of books affected by wwhether or not you read them on paper? Oh,
as opposed to
that would feed into. Do you like ebooks or physical books better?
I do not have a preference.
Okay.
I mean, I think that I read both pretty evenly. I do like a good trade paperback in my hands. Feels good.
Yeah.
But I don't get any kind of difference between, like, I read the same on either device. Device. Is this a device?
Yeah.
I think that for traveling, I will take my Kindle a lot. And I don't know, I don't know. I am 50-50. I don't really have a preference.
Okay. I have a decided preference, which is that like I only do ebooks when like it's efficiency and it's people who are only available from those channels and that sort of thing. My definite preference is toward paperbacks. I read so much faster and more easily on paper because it's what I'm used to, and I don't want to train my eyes to more screen time. So I'm just like, stay away, you know, that kind of thing, unless I have to. So
yeah, I do like my Kindle for like when I'm reading to try and fall asleep, because I don't like to have the big light on, and it's a backlit one, and so I'm able to kind of like curl up in the blanket with it. I don't know.
In your book nook?
In my book nook.
Yes.
This is my book nook with the TV right here.
Books.
I think maybe I would be more inclined to to get a lot of physical books if our house was a little bit bigger, but it's not. And so having a Kindle or some other device is nice to have more books without having to find a place to put them.
Right. It's the original bag of holding. Yeah. For fantasy fans out there. John. Yeah. Okay, so we can talk about Nina at the beginning. She's withdrawn from the world. How did her upbringing influence the person she's become? How did you think about that? Conceptualize that? Did it feel real? So she's very withdrawn. She's sticking to the schedule because she has anxiety. She's fallen into this bookstore path because she graduated with an art history degree. Shout out. And you know, limits her interaction with people as one does.
I didn't find her withdrawn even at the beginning. I mean, I think she's careful with who she's friends with, and she picks her friends carefully, and she has a small group of people that she likes and that she cares about and that she spends time with, because she has like her book club, her trivia club. She gets along with Liz and Polly at the bookstore. She runs like the kids book
right, all those kids hours.
Yeah.
As a bookseller, I was like, that's freaking a lot of work. Like,
yeah, all these kids come in and they do like little book clubs and reading hours, and she runs all of those. So her life is, to me, not withdrawn. She's very engaged in her life. It's just a small sphere. And I think that how she grew up as an only child, and her mom was always kind of traveling, and she was raised by a nanny, I believe. Is that, am I remembering?
Yeah.
Remembering. So that makes sense to me. And she didn't, like at school, it was always a little awkward for her. Social interactions are kind of awkward. And I think that a lot of that was her anxiety. She just felt like she was always saying the wrong thing and behaving the wrong way. And she likes books more than people, you know? So I don't really think she was withdrawn. I just think she had a
good
smaller
Good
circle.
answer.
She wasn't an extrovert, and that doesn't mean she was.
Yes, there we go. There we go. Okay, so the inciting incident, sort of like for one of the storylines that you outlined, was that she finds out that she has this family because she's never known who her dad was, and when he dies, like she is introduced to them. Excuse me. And so one of the questions is, why did Nina's mom not want Nina to know about her dad? How would things have been different if she knew about her family the entire time? Which is interesting, because when she does meet her family, there's a lot of interesting interactions that show that they were alike, which was an interesting choice. What did you think about the family situation?
The family did feel a little bit cloned to me, where everybody kind of had similar personalities, or each sibling had some element of Nina in them, or she had some element of them, which I understood as far as like needing to connect her to the family and for her to see that she had this wider array of people that she could connect with. But it did feel a little bit like heavy-handed to me sometimes. Like,
yeah, I never look at people in my family and think, oh, they have my nose, or oh, like that's where I got that way of walking. Like nothing is that distinguishable to me. It's kind of like when I look at babies and I'm like, I don't know, it's a baby. I'm like.
Yeah, and I mean, I only have one sibling, and we have like similar physical features, and there's some parts of our personality that are the same, but we're also like very opposite sides of the spectrum. Like she's very extroverted, I'm very introverted, and on. And then like with cousins and stuff, I'm like, you wouldn't be able to pick us out as family members, but it seemed like with this family, it was like, oh, well, I can definitely see the family resemblance here. So I don't remember what the rest of the question was, but
that's good. That's good. Yeah. Beth Ann saying she's definitely excited about a main character who's obsessed with books. Shannon was saying it's funny that you lost your tabs on your book because they were just talking about this on authortuber's React. I think that was just last night. About writing notes in the book as a bookish pet peeve. Some said to use tags or tabs, but some said they lose them. And you're a perfect marriage of both. That's cute. That's cute. Yes, bag of holding, right? I only discovered that once I was on BookTube and I had to like look it up for something. So I came late to that game, but I love the concept. Shannon has to run, have an interview on Books by Adrian. Oh, yay. That's right. That's right. Cool. Very cool. Beth Ann says, I could imagine interacting with new people who I've been told I'm related to out of the blue. I'd be scrutinizing them too. Interesting. Huh. I've never had that happen. I know people who have been introduced to family members later in life, and it's a weird. I know one who's talking about it on Twitter now, actually, Liz is, but it's strange to me. I don't have anything to compare it to because my family has always been like my family that like expands by a spouse and expands by a spouse and expands by a baby, and it's just slow and easy to sort of bring into the fold one at a time, you know. Yeah. Sisters all look similar, look nothing like my brother. But could they pick you out of a lineup, like as being a group together? That's why genes are crazy to me. Like, yeah.
One of my favorite things to do at like restaurants or any kind of large where there's a lot of people is to try and figure out like if people are related. I'm like, oh, that guy's definitely that guy's son or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
you do this at an airport?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good game. We're talking about, okay, if we back away from the term withdrawn, what about the role solitude plays in your life? That's one of the questions. I think we both identify as introverted and control sort of personal interactions for the ease of living. But does solitude call out something different? Is that like a different concept or like an additional layer of anything for you? As a writer?
Well, I think as a mostly introverted person, solitude is how I regain energy. So though I call myself an introvert, I do love hanging out with people. I do have community that I like to engage in, and I do find being around people stimulating and exciting, but it also can drain me depending on the person. There are some people in my life I could hang out with 24/7 and it's fine. Yeah. But then there's other people where I'm like, okay, I need a break. And I think, I think that's where kind of the solitude aspect comes in. It's a way for me to recharge. And I also think as a creative person, it's a way for me to come up with new ideas, new things to engage and kind of chase after. My husband used to work from the office, and then he started working from home more, even before everybody started working from home. Yeah. And then so when he was working from the office, I would go on these long walks by myself and just chase ideas on these walks and come up with, new scene ideas or whole new book ideas. And then we started working from home. He came on the walks with me, and I was like, You're
like, yeah. I feel that. Yeah. Yeah. I started kicking up exercise this past like 6 weeks, and I'm doing this app with my sister where we're on a trail together virtually. And so I've been going on like challenging myself to up my mileage, and I get 5, 6, 7 mile walks. And nice. When I go on them, I listen to books on my headphones, or I listen to music for a little break. And when I have to like downshift or downgrade the walks to like be with other people, I'm like, I could be listening to a book while I'm getting my miles. And there's like this little stupid productivity, bug in my ear saying, oh, you could be doing this. It's just silly because company is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anita, another authortuber here, is saying she has resemblance with her other siblings, but never compare myself to anyone in the family. And Beth Ann saying she's a diminutive version of her Hulk brother. Well, now we got to see pictures. I'm sure that's in a tag somewhere to have family pictures. So looking forward to that. All right.
I think part of this book for Nina was her finding the balance between solitude and engaging in social interactions. I think that was half of her arc, was deciding how much she wanted to be alone and how much she wanted to let other new people into her life.
Yeah. And especially I really liked that at first she set the boundary of nothing, like do nothing is a thing. It's a thing in my planner and you have to respect those boundaries. Like I need to do nothing, which means read.
Yeah, yeah.
And I need to do that for me. And so then it was negotiated and he respected her space and there was like a, you know, little dance and sort of learning and sort of a compromise thing. So I really liked that that's where we started though. That seemed healthy.
Yeah.
She's Beth Ann is laughing at your comment on the spouse joining. Mine always wants to converse, which is rude.
So rude, right? It's so rude. And then I try to say, hey, I'm thinking about this book idea. And then he's like, I'm just trying to talk to you. I'm like, yeah, but.
Yeah. Buddy. Yeah, right? It's funny. Okay, so here's a question that like is sort of bookish, sort of personal. What's so appealing about reading? Do you think both extroverts and introverts can be passionate about reading books? How do you think the experience is similar and different for both personality types? So I know we've got a few, and I'm like glinting my eye at Barrett Laurie later. A few extroverts here who are authors, but most are introverts. What do you know about the extrovert experience of reading a book? Like,
I would not deign to like try and explain an extrovert's mind.
Okay, I'm like imagining. I'm trying to put myself like I think extroverts need that time to like balance out. Even if they get energy from other people, it's probably like they need a calming period in between. I don't know.
I feel like the extroverts, this is just a weird way to talk about reading to me.
Okay.
Extroverted and introverted.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I never have really thought about whether introverts read more than extroverts or read in a different way. I'm trying to think of like my more extroverted friends and but I have introverted friends who don't read either. So it's, you know, I think that maybe it's just like how you like to have your stories delivered to you, and maybe a person on the more extroverted side of things might prefer a more interactive storytelling device. So like movies or TV or plays, something where it's more people
gaming,
focused.
perhaps.
Yeah, gaming.
Yeah.
Yes. I always forget gaming as a storytelling vehicle because I'm not a gamer.
Yeah, I know. I've been introduced to it through here. So, yeah.
Exactly. Whereas maybe like a more introverted person prefers like the quieter storytelling where they can be alone and with their own thoughts and like imagine and not have to kind of engage that more interactive part of their brain.
Yeah, that's true because it would tire them out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is why when you run across a thing that like 87 people have highlighted this thing in your book, you're like, get out of my book. I don't want to know. not my bag. It's okay.
But then you feel like you're just following the crowd because you also highlighted that thing. And you're like, I'm not original.
Yeah. I don't know. I so rarely do that. When I see it, I'm just like, that's weird. Like it's a zoo. Like I don't even know what to do with it. So yeah. Interesting. Okay. I wonder if like if you're so people-centered as a extrovert person that you're reading and you're thinking, oh, I want to talk to this person about this, or oh, that would be a really funny thing to relate to that person. And so you're like building up kind of like when you're listening and you want to get back in the conversation. Like it's a different experience.
Yeah.
We've got a question about the planner. The pages from the planner that were at the chapter headings, did they add much for you? No. It was cute, but I was like, I read through them and then I was like, okay, it's pretty much the same. Like I didn't get too much from it.
It was cute. It goes to like that playful vibe of the book. Sometimes I was like, spoiler, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. We already covered that. Okay. Nina was raised by her nanny, Louise, a woman who wasn't her biological parent, but who loved and cared for her very deeply. Does Nina consider Lou family? What part do you think biology plays in the formation of family? Okay, that's a huge question. So chop off the end there.
Wait. Hold on. Let's show Beth Ann the planner pages.
Oh. It's backwards. So yeah, there you go.
There. Okay. Right. Okay. I can maybe figure out how to. Is that?
Yeah. It's so just like the beginning.
Like between chapters, she would have these like visual pages, and it was like Nina writing in her planner, like talking about what she was going to do that day and what she was going to eat and
Yeah.
where she was going to go. And it was like, you know, today I'm going to read or
Right.
eat more vegetables or
whatever trivia thing they had planned.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was cute. I liked it in the acknowledgement. She called out the person whose little template she used because, like, as we know, people do reading journals like professionally on YouTube. So, hey, get the bank, get the coin. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a cute element, but it didn't add to the story at all. You could have not had them and it would have been the same story.
Yeah. What about the nanny part, the Lou relationship? So are we ready to like start going into a little plot thing? Should I put the spoiler up?
Sure. Yeah, we're about halfway through, right? Seems
Okay.
like.
Yeah. So what I referenced earlier with the nanny, like I put this. So here towards the end of the book, it's like the last 15%. Is where we have the call where she talks to Lou and actually like engages with her and we get actual Lou on the page. Whereas before it was just like, this is who raised me, da da da. And so I thought that was really late to introduce character and kind of, I feel like she deserved more page space as well, because if she's that influential on Nina, but we only hear about her in this one phone call in the middle of the night when she's panicking, like,
yeah,
I wanted a little more for that.
Yeah, I do. Before I jump into Lou, I do want to say that I think all the whatever spoilers we give won't take away from your enjoyment of the book. It's not like a jump scare or like a twist at the end or anything.
Right.
You'll be able to enjoy the full book if you listen to this spoiler
Yeah.
part. Yeah, it did feel like Lou was kind of thrown in there at the end, especially since she played such a big role in Nina's life. And I don't know if it was just because like Nina was an adult now, and so she was moving away from the need for that mother figure, or if she was maybe trying to reconnect with her mother more than with Lou. I don't know.
Yeah.
It would have. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like someone who has that much influence.
Yeah, same boat.
It does seem like someone who has that much influence in your life, you would keep in contact with them. Like, especially with Nina's personality, I feel like because she only had
regular
few close people, she would have kept up with Louise, with Lou, and in a more meaningful way. So
yeah, other than waking up in the middle of the night. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna jump to my other fun spoiler just because we have the banner up now, which is that she's a bookish nerd, and the guy she ends up having a romantic interest in makes bookshelves. He's a carpenter, makes bookshelves.
But he doesn't read.
No, he doesn't read. But I mean,
I'm married to a man who doesn't read and makes bookshelves. It's fine. They work.
It's fine. Okay. He also doesn't watch YouTube videos, I'm guessing.
Also, he hates it when I tell people that he doesn't read. He's like, I read. I just don't read a lot of like fiction books. I'm like,
yeah,
fine. Yeah. That's not reading. No. Yeah. That's not true. Fun. He was reading a book today. Hold on, let me get it for you. It's a good one.
All right.
Oh,
just get my other questions ready here.
Oh God. Guys, I'm just making a fool of myself on YouTube right now.
It's all good.
Work less, live more.
Oh, okay. One of these like workbook. Got it. Yeah. So we've talked about anxiety and coping mechanisms a little bit. Maybe more about her complicated relationship with her father, because she only learns about her father after he's passed away. So, what traits does Nina share with her father? What does she like about sharing certain personality characteristics with him? What does she find difficult about it?
That father relationship is weird for me. I love the sibling aspect of it, like how she found all these new siblings. Again, since we have a spoiler alert, her father sleeps with her mother. It's like a one-night stand, and then they never see him again because he's already married. Like he cheated on his wife, basically. So he's already a winner. And then Nina's mother's like, hey, don't contact us. I'm going to raise this daughter by myself. We don't need you in our lives. And so when he passes away and leaves money to her or something, leaves a car. It feels weird to talk about a book so spoilery like this, but you all said it was fine.
Yeah, the car was a surprise. I liked the surprise of the car and the envelopes. That's what made it. So that was nice.
When I like read the letter that he writes to her at the end, I was like, how does he know so much about someone he didn't have any contact with?
Yeah.
Like there
were insta-lovey like connections made like in every relationship and every type of love relationship in this book, but I was okay with it. I was like, whatever, happy ending.
But I think there was a moment in the letter where he's like, if you're choosing to be alone because you want to, that's fine. But if you're choosing to be alone because you're afraid.
Oh yeah, creepy stalker-ish. Yeah.
I was like, how do you know she's alone? Like, yeah. So there were some weird elements with her father that I don't know. I appreciated that he respected Nina's mother's wishes and stayed out of their lives because that's what Nina's mother wanted, for better or worse. I don't know that Nina was like worse off for it because she had a lot of people who loved her and cared for her. And I don't know if like being introduced to this guy earlier would have ruined things for the family more, like after he's dead. I don't know. But then he can't like be held responsible for his actions. Like when they find out that he philandered, he's already dead. So
yeah, I like that. I did like that you have different pieces of yourself that you leave with people. So after you die, it's like people know different parts of you, and so they perceive you different ways. And so her father had a, like, for lack of a better term, come to Jesus moment where he was like, wow, I'm a terrible person. And so his last marriage and his last child had a lot different experience than his earlier ones did. And so there's like this big rift. And because he's had so many affairs and wives and whatever, there's lots of children who are like up in arms about the different versions of their father, which I thought was really interesting to probe into a little bit.
Yeah.
Stick shift. Still not a fan. I'm glad that Nina learns though. That was cool. Let's see. Opposites, anxiety, father, nanny. I think we've covered most of the bases here. Nina's mind is constantly moving, filling with ideas, facts, and information. How does this help and hinder Nina? What do you think are the pros and cons of having such an active brain? Ooh, reader question. Okay, this we can take it down.
What?
Active brain. So
what are the cons of having an active brain? Well, you overthink everything and you can't make decisions. And it takes you 10 days to make a decision that you should have made in 30 minutes. The pros is that you're, I don't know,
creative. Imagination life. Yeah.
Making up worlds in your head and expecting the unexpected. So you're like planning for things that might happen. So you're more prepared.
Have you ever written a character who had an active brain, should I say?
I hope that all of my characters have active brains.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I have not yet written. No, I did. My second book, he had a very active brain. He believed in UFOs. So.
All right.
And made up whole worlds about that.
Ooh, okay. This would be a good time to pimp your next book. So let me pop that in the chat. Tell us about Edge of the Storm. Give us like
not this book. This is not the UFO book.
No, the next one. I like pimp the next book because we're talking about your writing career. So any opportunity.
So I have a book coming out in May. It's Edge of the Storm, and it is book 2 in a detective series that I started ages ago. The first book came out last year, and this is the second installment, perhaps the last. I'm undecided.
Series. They're hard, man.
Yeah. My brain, speaking of active brains, my brain is always like, new story idea that has nothing to do with this series that you've been working on.
Ding, ding, ding. I know.
And it features a female detective in a small town in Washington, and it's set in like the 1980s, and she's like the first female detective on the squad. And in the second book, she's been in the squad about a year and kind of trying to find her footing. And a murder happens, obviously, because That's what these books are.
Nice.
This is actually like the first time I've been talking about this book, so I don't have like a great elevator pitch. So
Well, this is your first practice, so you pitched it out there. Yeah.
murder, detective solves the case. The end.
Okay. Yeah, I just like thinking of characters with active brains in the way that Nina is. So in the way that she throws out these zingers. Okay, let me see if I can find another one that is like short enough to read aloud. So writing historical fiction, I don't perceive my characters as having such plugged in brains because it's before there's electricity. So like my writing of their internal monologue stuff is very measured and like maybe fear tinged, but not like, ugh. It's just like, ugh. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, this is the one that made me say this is like a prototype bookseller life. So if anyone identifies with this, I see you and I feel seen. So this customer comes in to try to return a book. This is page 5. So this is right off the bat. Why not? The customer was short, but she managed to draw herself up a couple of inches. All that Pilates finally paying off. Nina was firm. Because we sold you a book and you read it. That's pretty much the whole life cycle of bookstores right there. If you didn't enjoy it, I'm very sorry, but we can't do anything about it. She looked down at the book on the counter. You really didn't like it? It's generally considered one of the greatest novels of all time. Nina resisted the impulse to pull out her imaginary blaster and blow the woman's head off, and got a microflash of the bit in Terminator 2 where his silvery head splits in the middle and waves about. Like, okay, bookseller life because of the returning policy thing, but also active brain and like writer brain and whatever. Yeah, I loved that.
When I read that part, I was like, who returns a book they've already read? Like, have you ever done that? Have you ever heard? So a cookbook
I went through and I was like, I'm not going to use this ever. This was just eye candy. So I did that last year. Yeah.
I could see maybe like a reference book, but like a novel.
Yeah. It's just not playing fair. Yeah.
Give it away to somebody else.
Right. So this is the bookseller part. The lady says, if I don't like the food at a restaurant, I can send it back and get a refund. Not if you've eaten it. Nina was confident on this one. And I'm like, yes, that's a good comeback. It's a good comeback to remember.
Yeah.
So there's all these little like things going on. And especially if you're in the same age bracket, you get the references. I think I got all of them, which is not usual. So I was very excited about understanding the pop culture references that she has. So I think the author, Abbi Waxman, was very particular about like her audience and her crowd and like what they would identify with, which I appreciated. So, do you have any questions or like points about the book that you want to bring up as we round out our hour?
Let's see. I was wondering what you thought of.
And we got an interesting question from Shannon, if you want to pop that, because she's on her way to something else, if you wanted to answer that first.
Yeah, so my first 2 books are traditionally published, and the Brett Buchanan mystery series, which is the one I'm working on now, is self-published. I'm kind of just like doing a little bit of both right now. Like I'm not under any traditional publishing book contracts right now, but I do still have a literary agent, and I do have plans to submit new books to her. And in the future, it was just this specific series. I decided to go ahead and try it out on my own. And I've really been enjoying it. I've been enjoying learning and like figuring it all out and kind of having control of my own destiny, it feels like a little bit. So
totally. So she's the hybrid author who has is it Beat on the Pulse, but like really interesting takes on both sides of the aisle, if you will. So I'm going to pop her YouTube channel in the chat because it's in the description, but you know,
okay,
if it's not in the chat, it didn't happen. So there you go. Nice. Okay. And then any last points that you were like aching to bring up about the book?
Yes. I just had a question about how you felt. Okay. So there is this narrative thing that she does, this writing prose related. I know this is very like niche and just like, only writers maybe would notice this, but so the story is told in Nina's perspective for most of the time. It's like third person point of view, but we're in Nina's head. It's like third person limited. And it's mostly her, but then every once in a while it switches to Tom's point of view, and not as a separate chapter and not as a separate scene, but in the same scene. And then it switches back to Nina. And that drove me a little nuts. I do not like it when books do that.
Okay.
And so I was wondering about your thoughts on it, how you felt, how that felt for you.
So I definitely noticed it. And I did one of those like, excuse me, like, pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon kind of looks? And I was like, what? Okay, I see this. And it's just a paragraph. I like being in Tom's head. It's cool to see what he's actually thinking versus what she's gaming what he's thinking and like trying to react to. And I have like vestiges of the that's a no-no, like slap on the wrist kind of thing. Like this would have been called out by an editor, but obviously she made the case for this needs to be in here because XYZ. So I tried to like tamp down the, automatic response of my nervous system to be like, that's bad. And I enjoyed it. I liked what Tom's POV led to that moment and sort of grounded us back in what Nina is actually perceiving, because it gives us a context of like, this is what's actually happening in the moments when we profit from seeing how she's interpreting things differently, So,
yeah.
So I was okay with it. Yeah.
I do, like, when I read romance, I do love to have the 2 points of view, but I'm generally like used to seeing it in either different scenes or different chapters where you have that break. And I'm wondering if it was like the author decided to do that because she didn't necessarily have or enough of Tom's voice to fill a full scene. So she just kind of did these like small, this is me like trying to understand the author's intent.
Yeah.
Always useless.
Yeah.
So she just did these like small paragraphs instead. So.
Are you familiar with the Joe Montana SNL skit? Because I am not.
No, but
sorry, John.
We should watch. I'm gonna watch it later, though. I love SNL skits, so I'm gonna pull that up later and watch it.
Cool. Bye, Shannon. Have fun. I'll join you on Books by Adrian soon. Good luck. That was a great authorial ending question. Very good. So I think we've exhausted all the publisher questions that I thought were on the ball, and it's just left to say this is a great book, great for when you need like a break and an escape, and can identify with a book nerd and like someone who it feels like her life was definitely simplified to lend emphasis to the points the author wanted to make, and I was okay with that because I mean, look at the cover, it's simplified to make a point. So good marketing there with the use of the cover. I don't know. Oh, she's got another book, author of The Garden of Small Beginnings. So apparently there is a backlist to pull from if we wanted to find this later.
She might be have a new book coming out soon too. I might not be remembering that right.
Okay. All right. Well,
hold me to that.
I don't know either. I didn't research the book. This is just, like I said, the purpose of the book, the buddy read book discussions, is so that the buddies get a heightened pleasure from reading the book and like exploring the themes, but also to give people an idea if they want to read or not. So hopefully I pushed you in the direction of yes, because it's super cute.
It was it's a cute book, especially if you've been reading a lot of darker murder books. Pick this one up.
Have Valerie drink a vodka drink and drink a lager drink. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah.
Oh.
Blame it on the time change.
yeah. Blame it on the time change. That is the real thing today. Beth Ann, I think this would be a perfect book for your mom.
Yeah, that's a good book.
I think, and if you guys could read it together too, that'd be cute.
Yeah, good idea. And better to be an hour earlier than an hour late. There you go. Well, happy spring forward, everyone. You've lost an hour, but you've gained the coming of the light. So hopefully that leaves you with a happy thought. I appreciate y'all coming by to say hello and support the channel and listen in on our book discussion. I appreciate Valerie teaming up with me to do the buddy read and be a guest. So have a great Sunday, everybody. Happy reading, and we'll see you all again soon.